Yeah, I looked when you sent it, I'm like, you didn't send it till late Tuesday, so it's really
Oh,
not
yeah,
been
it was
that
late.
long.
That was it might have been at like 11 o'clock, 12
Yeah.
o'clock, I think.
And I didn't check that email again till last night, so.
This is the, Happy December, everybody. This is the, Real Property Tax Service meeting for, December. Entertain a motion to accept the, minutes from the prior meeting. Matt? Peter? Any comments, questions, additions, deletions, summations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Lex, you're up.
Okay, first is, a resolution to approve the chargebacks of taxes. There was 2 court orders. The assessments had been lowered by court orders, so we just need approval to move forward. The treasurer's office really needs that approval, but it goes to us, so.
Okay, Matt, second to that? Peter?
Just have a question, is, E.P. Glennswald Realty, is that Peter Hoffman?
I don't know that.
Okay. Now, when you say court order, has this been going on for a period of time, or has this been, as far as his, challenging?
It could be a SCAR decision, where they challenged their assessment. I don't know how long. SCARs don't ever go through us. They all go through, they start in the assessors and them, or this could be in Article 7 as well, so I don't know.
Okay.
They take a while.
They do, some of
Yeah.
them.
Good, thank you.
Craig, did you have something?
No, Peter asked it
Peter
then.
did. Great minds think alike, Craig.
Got it.
Okay. We got a motion on the floor. If there's no further comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Okay, the next resolution is to delete some, or special district charges for the water district in the town of Queensbury on 4 state of New York parcels. They are listed there with the amounts and the penalties. I also included a resolution from the town of Queensbury that they had just passed, asking that this be done. So, we would like to remove that off of there because the state of New York doesn't pay. So, these were put on and those special districts shouldn't have been on for them, so they're not a usage.
Okay. Claudia? You make that motion?
Yep.
Craig, will you,
I'll
second that?
second, I'll
Yeah,
second.
here we go. I got a
There we go.
tag team going here today. Okay, anybody got any questions, comments? Craig?
Did this just come up then, in 2015, that
Well,
they started?
how it came up was that these properties ended up actually on our list for next year's foreclosure. So that's what brought it to our attention. So
That'll do it.
that's why we, went back, because they're vacant land. So we, reached out to the people at the state, I reached out to the assessor in Queensbury, and we all worked at just getting it taken care of to not have this issue.
But they're owned by New York State?
Yes, they're state of New York parcels.
We're gonna foreclose on them?
No, we are not. That's why we're,
No.
Okay.
we're moving forward with this
Oh, because of this.
resolution.
Gotcha.
Is that an actual tax? Or is that a
It's a
usage?
special district. It was a usage tax, but they're vacant land, so they're, it's, I don't know if they're in a, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a total blank. It's
Isn't
a
that the-
district where you just, there's a,
They charge an ad valorem tax in that district, their water district, right? Water
yeah,
sewer.
because it's a unit thing, not a usage, I believe, so
Yeah.
the state doesn't pay on that stuff unless it's actually in something, an agreement ahead of time where they would approve to pay those, but it's not in for any of these, and they just got put on, so, Terry Ross, the assessor in Queensbury, spoke to their attorney, and, they decided to look into it, and there was, in the law, it states that they do not need to pay. So there's a provision in there, so they went ahead and, removed these off of these 4 parcels.
Ron?
Yeah, in 15, did we make Queensbury whole on that 720.76?
If it was re-levied on, yes, we would have.
So are they gonna be repaying us that $720.76, because we would have made them whole.
Your treasurer is raising his hand.
We will be charging back.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's what
That's the
I-
answer.
Beautiful.
Just checking.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
Not a lot,
just-
but, you know. Okay.
Anybody else? Peter?
I just have a general question, and I don't, maybe you can't answer it, but if, in general terms, and when we, and I'm gonna refer specifically to, city-owned property, that would be the city of Glens Falls watershed property, city-owned property that runs through the town of Queensbury. The general, perspective, attitude, law that goes to, the charging of taxes on that kind of property.
Some are exempt and some are not, it depends. Mike's raising his hand again.
Just to answer your question quickly, there is, the real property tax law states that that's an option type deal.
Right.
In other words, if a municipality owns land in another municipality and it's for watershed purposes, then Glens Falls could petition Queensbury, the county, and the school districts for exemptions in that process. Glens Falls did do that back in the mid-nineties. It is exempt from Warren County taxes, not from Queensbury, and not from the school district, because they did not go along with it. They did not allow the option.
Okay, so,
Take fire and EMS too.
I believe you're right,
Yes,
yes.
a special district tax.
so,
They're not exempt from.
so they continue, the city continues to pay, school as well as, town of Queensbury taxes?
Because it was not approved. In some of their properties, they pay on all. It depends on how they, because there was one we were working on, and Martin had put it back to the town attorney of Queensbury, and we had never heard anything back on that. They were supposed to reach back out to the city. There was that one parcel over by Hudson Point that they were working on, and nothing was ever finalized with that particular parcel.
Just a quick question, Ron, in terms of, maybe testing your memory here, in terms of why the town of Queensbury in the mid-nineties, did not exempt the city from, town or school taxes, why did they not do that?
The town tax actually is relatively insignificant in terms of.
Exactly.
The big one is
Is
the school tax.
the school taxes, correct?
The town can't say that, I mean, the school has to do that, and.
Okay, did the school at that point make a decision not to, do you remember?
Well, I can tell you, it's very tough to get the school to walk away from those taxes, because on a parcel that we were building a park in, I asked the superintendent to do that. He did it on one parcel, but he didn't do it on the other, so it's their school board. And then EMS and fire, I'm just not sure how you go about that. I mean, I think it's a simple vote of the town board to eliminate the taxes in Queensbury.
But the municipality requesting it has to make,
An application.
an application to the other municipality. So Glens Falls would have to make an application to the city, to the town of Queensbury to qualify for that exemption. And then it would be up to the town board and the town of Queensbury to say yes or no.
Because the school taxes are significant, it's not a small number.
Yes, they are,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the same thing would happen there. The city would have to, apply to the school district for the exemption. That was done back in the nineties, and the school district turned it down.
I wanna say, I think that 24,000 was a number that I remember in the school tax, and maybe it was 7,000 with EMS, fire, and town tax.
That's not the number I've heard, Ron, but we can talk about it, okay?
How many
Yeah.
lots, like, how many lots do we have up there?
Yeah, that
Are you talking about the watershed property,
Yes,
Peter?
yeah,
Well, that's a little different because they changed the use of it. They started bringing in money because they were charging for the water to the private water company. So they've changed the use.
which is a recent change, okay?
Right, that was in
Yeah,
the
this is-
nineties.
Yeah, this is,
Right, but you know what, too, with the town tax in the nineties, I don't believe Queensbury had a town tax at that time. It's not
Yeah.
until just
Yeah.
past, what,
It's-
5
it-
years ago? I
it's
think
really the
maybe
school
they-
taxes, the school taxes are the issue, yeah.
And that all depends on if the school wants to
Exactly.
allow it or not. It's
Okay,
no
So-
influence really from
so-
the county or town.
so ask the school district, that's the answer,
Yes,
okay?
that is.
Good, thank you.
Anything else? We have a motion on the, table and seconded. No further comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the next one, I just wanna add something in before we jump to the Warrensburg parcel. I just wanted to let you all know, myself, Supervisor Conover and Supervisor Bramer and, Treasurer Swan all met and we discussed, the last chance meeting, like was talked about, 2 meetings ago, I think originally, or maybe 3, to maybe make some changes. So we did have some discussion and we did come up with some stuff, but, we still wanna meet again, with the chairman and the county attorney, and get back to you after we go forward with that. But I just wanted to let you know that we are progressing with that.
Great.
Okay, and then next on the agenda is,
No?
sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
Is the Warrensburg parcel, to 11.13-3-35. That is for Horicon Ave, the Westerly acquisition property that we had Ecosystems do the site assessment on. Everything came back great. I think you'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So they're saying, their recommendation is no further investigation is recommended at this time. They are saying they feel that the floor drain should be sealed to prevent future discharges to the subsurface. But they're not really, they did 11 soil borings and, collection of 6 soil and 2 subsurface vapor samples to, document the presence or absence of subsurface contamination potentially associated with historical discharges into 5 interior floor drains. That was the big concern, was the floor drains, because they didn't know where they went to. And they say that no obvious contamination was observed in soils near the interior floor drains or at likely down gradient locations, and no significant contamination was identified in soil samples. So, my recommendation, but it's just my recommendation, we're looking to make sure that's what you guys wanna do, would be to put it back into the foreclosure. At this point, we could make the county attorney's office aware of that, and they would just put it in and start the process for the, 27 foreclosure on this property, and then it would be able to be sold at the 2017 auction. I did also speak with Russell Hike yesterday on the phone from DEC, and he, recommended the same thing. He thought that was great. He said, you know, the report came back great. So that was his recommendation as well, to move forward with the foreclosure.
Somebody wanna put that in the motion? Matt, a second? Claudia? Any further discussion? Peter?
Yeah, I just have just one question, okay, and that,
Sure.
if you go to the 3rd paragraph, kind of the middle of the, there's a sentence there, it says, "A delineation of deep soils was not possible due to numerous refusals and no groundwater data." So that's suggesting that, that it's not substantially contaminated, which would seem to make sense, but I guess my question would be if someone were to want to develop this piece of property, would that sentence there trigger, on the part of maybe a lender or, someone else further?
I don't believe so, because this report was done for was for the inside. They did where the floor drains, so they went down through and under the building itself was the purpose of this test. They had done other testing in the, phase 2 on the outside of the soils, and those, I believe, all came back fine, and that's why we moved forward with this, site assessment. So, and this is not zoned as a residential piece of property, it's zoned as commercial, so there's a difference in the condition of the property when it becomes commercial or residential. Like DEC had explained, if you were to, like on the Johnsburg garage, if we cleaned it up and we chose to zone it commercial, it's not as an extensive cleaning as it is when it comes to residential.
Okay.
So,
Claudia?
Is this report saying that no cleaning is needed?
nothing is needed for this property.
Because it says, it may require management as a regulated waste should excavation occur. Is that saying,
Saying
I guess,
if
are
you
we-
dig it up and you encounter some contaminated soil, you gotta
It's,
do the necessary.
I'll
They're telling
give
you
you
they
a
don't
short,
think.
it's a little 3-bay garage on it, and, A&B Oil, it goes a long time back, and Oak Street Oil and all them were on it, and there's no contamination. I live right next to it up the hill, and, all this is a 3-bay garage where they used to park their vehicles inside. They've already done the aspiration on the outside, and they, 2 times they found nothing. You know, there's been no oil leaked on the ground or no spillage on the ground, and this is just a little garage. This would sell in a heartbeat. There's been people wanting to buy it, but, you know, when it went in, so.
well,
As far as, the only thing
done our
I'd
due
read there is
diligence
you
so
may
that
wanna
we
fill in the
can say-
floor drain with concrete.
Okay.
That would be the only thing I would say.
And DEC, when I spoke to him yesterday,
Ron?
his recommendation was to go forward with the foreclosure on the property as well, and he reviewed the report as well.
okay.
Yeah, I think based on that recommendation, I think I can support moving forward. I was just a question for the attorney, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Just in terms of full disclosure, we could probably make a notation in our sale documents that this report exists, for anyone's review. And can we also, indicate that, can we build a bit of a firewall, if you will, a bit of a protection wall in terms of any future liabilities, not in terms of our taking possession of it and then turning it over, that we can't avoid once we take possession, but in terms of any, liabilities relative to somebody purchasing it.
Well, the county's pretty protected through the foreclosure process, because everyone's buying the property as is.
As is.
Yeah, so
It's understood that
anything
we
they
don't warranty,
encounter,
we're not warranting any
correct.
property in any way.
Well, it should be understood. People don't always understand that, but that's how they're taking the property.
I still think it's a good point, Ron, to denote that we've done this test and
The studies exist.
it's available.
Well, it just would seem to me that way, it's
Out there.
a buyer beware
Right.
kind of thing where, so that we don't, it's just a full disclosure kind of thing, that's all.
Yeah.
Matt, do you wanna add that to your, was it your resolution?
Yeah,
Do you wanna add that?
yes,
You?
I'm good with that.
Claudia?
Sure.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, one other thing, while I was on the phone with, Mr. Height, he asked if I would talk about the Johnsburg property today as well. I know we've talked about it in the past, and that we were at the point where now what needed to be done was the removal of the tanks in the ground. We did, have Brian look into being able to do that under the temporary incidents of ownership. And when he looked into that, he said that we couldn't, but that it was, really comes to our choice kind of thing to do that. So I, talked with Russ, and Russ said that after, reviewing the report and looking at everything, I have printed out, kind of hard, it's just a small picture, it's a small diagram. On here, there's 2 little ovals, and I'll pass this down. Those are where the tanks are. This is where the building is, this is the piece of property. There's a B2, a B10, and a B1 that are all right next to these tanks. Those are borings that they did, to check, and I printed out those soil boring, logs on those 3 for you to see, and it tells you how far they went down. It was 12 feet on, boring 1, 12 feet on boring 2, and 7 feet on the boring 10. And on there, it tells you everything that they found, and I'd like to pass those around and take a look at them. As Russ explained to me, he says these tanks are 2 1,000-gallon tanks that are on the property. He says he believes that they're 4 feet in diameter. He says, so by them going down 12 feet and the 7 feet, he says if there was anything present, that had leaked out under them, they would have found that in those borings. So he says from his review of the reports, he feels that the risk is minimal of there being something there. And his recommendation, first he asked if anybody had reached out to, council at DEC to discuss any of this with them, to see if we could do it under the temporary incidents of ownership, because he had believed other counties had done similar things under, the temporary incidents of ownership, and I had stated no, that we hadn't. So I did reach out to, our county attorney yesterday and gave him the information for Dolores Tui, who is a DEC attorney in Albany. Brian was going to send her an email yesterday, to see, you know, how she felt, if there was anything that we could do, under the temporary incidents of ownership to remove them. And Russ also stated that if there was, for some reason, we were not able to do it that way, he thought that we should still move forward with the foreclosure on the property, because he feels that everything else on the property came back clean through the reports. The only concern was just removing these tanks out of the ground, because they're still in the ground and they need to come out. So he said that what we could do is put out an RFP, get quotes for, removal of the tanks, to see what the cost is. He says he feels that it would only be around $10,000 to have those tanks removed, and he can't guarantee that. That's why we would need to do the quotes. But move forward, and then once we took title, we would be able to then go through, if we weren't allowed under the temporary incidents of ownership, we could then go forward with, just removing the tanks. Because once the tanks are removed, DEC is willing to sign off on this property. They would then close the, report that they have on it. And it would then, at that point, be totally clean, and we could sell it at our following year, which would be 2018's tax foreclosure, and get it back on the tax rolls. So I'm just reporting to you guys what he had stated. He would also like to, there's another guy in the Warrensburg DEC office, his name is Steve, and I'm not sure of his last name. He would like to reach out to Steve and get myself and possibly Mr. Swan to go out and meet them at the property. They would like to just try to get the tanks open and just check to see if there is anything still in the tanks, or not, if they're empty. So I'm just passing this information on. I don't know, how you guys feel about it, because it was kind of at the point where the tanks, we all knew that the tanks were the only thing that needed to be removed. They didn't find any contamination, but it's just a matter of how you guys want to proceed with that.
Ron?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with these environmental investigations is that they don't always come back perfect. If they did, we wouldn't be doing them, right?
Right.
So, you know, I think, to me, the purpose behind the investigation is to kind of determine what we're buying into, should we take title to the property. I think we all would agree, we sure would like to get those tanks out of the ground, for a whole host of reasons. But in terms of our due diligence and getting, kind of scoping this on the front end, is, you know, are we talking $10,000, we're talking $100,000, you know, what's the degree of, issue here? So, I like the idea of, taking the next step, perhaps getting some people onto our site, determine, have the tanks been pumped, are they empty? Those kinds of things, in anticipation of, given the borings that we have and whatever, of, extracting the tanks. Because in the end, if we don't do it, it's, you know, it won't get done, and then we'll have not only non-productive property, but quite frankly, we could have an issue that could be moving somewhere else. I'm not real keen about that either, so.
So are you talking about doing a site inspection and then going out for an RFP?
Well,
Yeah,
Well, I
I mean, I think you're gonna need to scope
I think,
the service.
Ron, don't we already have, environmental firms on retainer, so to speak, don't we?
Well, we have Ecosystems that have done all the reports that were requested of them.
But don't we have an environmental, firm that we use for cleanups and stuff? Don't we use MC Environmental or something?
Their contract with the county is exclusive to taking the drain oil out of the DPW.
Okay.
Because I went.
So we'd have to put this out
We
for,
would have to put this out to
for
RFP.
bid, or, yeah. I mean, it's the right thing to do, everybody. I mean, it is the right thing to do, and we should be doing it. Yeah. But it is the right thing, we should pursue this. It's not that big a deal, it doesn't sound like.
To Ron Conover's comments, I think if you're gonna go to bid on, removing the tanks, you gotta find out if they're full or empty.
Right.
That's an important consideration in the bid.
Well, that's what she said, though.
I stated that we're gonna meet with two members of DEC, Russell Hike and, Steve, and his last name starts with a P, he's at the Warrensburg DEC, I mean, they're both engineers, this is what they do. Steve works, strictly, I think, with the underground gas tanks, because I had reached out and spoke with him before, and he had given me, like, a list of contractors that the state has that does do this type of work, so he did give me that list in the past. So they're willing to meet with us, I think that's great. I wanted to wait until after this meeting to try to see what you guys decided, and then set up an appointment up with them, and hopefully maybe we can get out there before Christmas, and be able to see what's there. If there's anything in the tanks, or maybe they're sitting empty, we don't know.
Claudia?
Thanks. I just was wondering, are we able to do that under
the
our temporary?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna double check though to see if we can also do the removal somehow. We didn't think so,
but
but
Brian has
Brian-
has
right.
reached out to
Okay.
this Dolores Tui, who
'Cause
is
I
an
think that would be
attorney
the-
with DEC.
If we can do that,
Should do it.
then we can sell it this year.
Yeah, you could.
I don't think you'd be able to get it done in a time frame, because they would have to start the whole process, has to go through an abstract and everything like that, and that all has already started
For the
for
other
the
prop-
17 auction, so, by the time we go out and do the inspection of the tanks, and we hear back from the attorney from the state, I don't know if that'll give us enough time.
Ron?
Unless we just go ahead with putting it in the foreclosure, because at any time, we can pull anything out of the foreclosure. We don't have to move forward, we could start that process, I just don't know how that works with our temporary incidents of ownership. Would we still have that if we placed it into the proceedings for the foreclosure?
I don't know the answer to that.
So, that's something that Brian would
That's
probably
pretty
have
blunt.
to ask.
Okay.
Ron?
Yeah, I mean, to me, what the investigation is doing is helping us determine best way to proceed. So, for example, if, like in case of Warrensburg, or perhaps hopefully this property, if it's, the order of magnitude that we're talking about, we just should move forward and take care of it and put it on the tax roll. Now, if we should discover a much, much larger issue,
Well,
then
then
we
you
would
have to-
probably be looking to partner with the state of New York, to try to achieve, either a brownfield grant or other type of cleanup grant, simply because of the cost and the magnitude and the potential liability, indemnifications. So really what the investigation is doing is kind of helping us design how best to clean up the property, both not only in terms of dollars, but liability. So I think when we find that, or we suspect that the order of magnitude is like what we're talking about, either in Warrensburg or Johnsburg, my feeling is we should, that's the counsel we should follow. We should move forward and remediate, take care of the problem, put the property back out in productive use. If we find that it's a bigger issue, then we need to pull the state of New York in and others, and architect an approach that's achieves the same thing, but maybe in a more universal sense.
And under those circumstances, a piece of property does not go to auction. So assuming this study came back and said, oh man, you got major problems there, okay? So we then, my understanding of the temporary incident of ownership, it enables us to go out there to do the right thing, to make a judgment as to whether something is environmentally doable or not doable. But if we assume the worst and it's not doable, we we then kinda, we
We-
kinda back off, or we partner with the,
We turn it over to the state of
I
New
see.
York at that point if it was determined to be, you know, severely contaminated or contaminated. And that's why Russ is not really feeling that these are a worry.
Yeah.
And that's why he's, you know,
Sure.
recommending that we move forward with them.
It seems to make sense, that makes a lot of
mhm.
sense, just to move on and clean them up, get them
I
on the
have-
tax rolls and move on.
I've shared all of the reports that have come back with, Mr. Hike from the CEC, and he has reviewed them, so that's why he just asked that I would discuss this today, 'cause he, you know, didn't feel that this was anything to be worried.
So how do we attempt to?
We're going to, I'm going to reach back out to him after the meeting. I'll reach out to him today and talk to him about setting up an appointment to go out and meet with him and the, man from the Warrensburg DEC office to go out and check the tanks to see if there's anything in there. And I can report back on what we find and how we wanna move forward with that.
Gene?
I think that, because all they have to do is find out if there's anything in them. That's
Right.
most important. If there's something in the tanks, then we can assume that they weren't leaking.
Right.
But if there's nothing in the tanks, then you have to go the other direction.
Well, even if there's nothing in the tanks, doesn't mean that the prior owners didn't drain them. I mean, if it was diesel fuel.
You've already done that, though. You've already done the soil borings. You've done the
Right,
soil
you've looked
borings.
underneath,
All
but
you wanna
nothing
do is
came
find
up.
out if there's something in the tanks.
Right.
You go out with DEC, you get this accomplished. It shouldn't be a big deal. You can get this done in a month's time.
That's why I'm saying put it on for this.
And put it in a tax foreclosure if it
Well,
works.
first we need to find out though, if it's an issue with us putting it in the foreclosure and the temporary incidence of ownership. We need to see if we can work with that together and do it under the temporary incidence of
But you,
ownership.
but we're
or-
still we can still go on the property, check the tanks, and that should be something you can accomplish in 2 weeks before the snow hits.
Oh, no, I'm not stating that. I'm saying if we go forward with the cleanup. I understand, yes, we can go on to just check the
They
tanks.
cleaned up 2 properties. I understand how it works.
Let's get a motion to, allow Alexi to take the next step, and do whatever she needs to do, go out and check the tanks, see if there's anything in them, and then next month, report back to us and, see where we're going. So, Matt and Peter?
Great, yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Are you done?
I have nothing else.
Does anybody else have anything, privilege of the floor, anybody from the peanut gallery? Being none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, Claudia, thank you.
You let me know if that wouldn't affect this.
President?
Oh, yeah.
They're just